Means the world to me. Today, I found out, the title is National Juneteenth Independence Day. Okay? It started right after the Civil War in 1866, but it became an official federal holiday in 2021. And having it named a federal holiday means banks, the stock exchange, are closed. It puts weight to the significance of the day. Now, does anybody know what Juneteenth is?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Juneteenth came about on June 19th, 1865. The Emancipation Proclamation, which freed all of the slaves in the south of the all of the slaves in the Confederacy, took place January 1st, 1863. Yes. And it was 2 years later that the word finally got to Texas. Now, what happened as the Civil War kept going, the Confederate plantation owners picked up and moved to Texas and took their slaves with them. This shocked me, so that by the time the Union soldiers arrived on June 19th, Texas had over 250,000 slaves, 250,000 slaves.
Oh,
I never knew that. I've been doing some study to make sure that I was accurate. And I talked with some of my African American friends, and I said, is it okay if I do this? And, well, I can't tell you all that they said, but the overall gist of things was, education is never a bad thing, even for white people. Yes.
Did they tell you why they all went to Texas?
The plantation owners did, because of the invading Northern Army of Aggression. Yeah, Northern Army of Aggression. They were never called Yankees. Well, that was a slang. But as the Union made its way down the South, the writing was on the wall, and so the plantation owners just picked up and moved to Texas. Most people don't understand that Texas was part of the Confederacy. It had gone through where it was part of Mexico. It had gone through where it was its own nation. And now it had come in to the United States, but it went with the Confederacy. But because it was so far away, they didn't see any action, none. So they pretty much operated as they always did. So Colonel Granger showed up with 2,000 Union soldiers on June 19th. I had always thought that when they declared that there was freedom, that they read the Emancipation Proclamation, and they did not. They read Edict number 3. Oh, she's so happy.
I'm taking her chair, sorry.
She's understanding everything, thanks to Kathy. This is Kathy Lemuel. This is Misha's daughter, if you've not met her before. She's the lady that we're going to try to talk back to come do some more sign language for us at some point. And she looks at me. So,
Galveston.
2,000 people, and I always thought that they read the Emancipation Proclamation. They did not. They did Order number 3. And that's what was on your doors today, Order number 3, which it blew my mind, because I didn't know about this either. I love this. when he read it, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights, which did not last very long, and right because Jim Crow came in, and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And this is what I thought was hysterical. And the connection heretofore existing between them now becomes that between an employer and a free laborer. A free laborer, yeah.
So what did these plantation owners do when they moved to Texas? Did they have to build their own homes and everything?
Yeah, they were rich. Rich white men, come on.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Rich white men.
Texas was so big, it's probably easy for them to get land and stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Who's gonna come out in the bush and tell you couldn't settle there? Nobody. So, on that day, a couple of things happened. Enslaved people were not allowed to have strawberry soda. It was a luxury, and it was only meant for white people. And in Galveston, that's where this number 3 edict was read, was in Galveston, of which there were approximately 10,000 slaves, enslaved people. I have to keep saying enslaved people. So I found us some strawberry soda, because that day it flowed, and the newly freed people just drank it to their fill because it wasn't forbidden them anymore, because they had been told that day that they had equal rights. And the colonel made sure that it was hung up in places where it could be read by the enslaved people who knew how to read, so that the word got out and it went like wildfire through Galveston. From that point on, every June 19th was called Juneteenth, or Jubilee Day, or Second Independence Day. It had lots of different names.
Freedom Day.
And it didn't take too long before the people in government who were white refused to allow them to gather at any public spot. So they would contribute every year to get enough money to buy their own park. So all over Texas, you will see parks that were bought just to have Juneteenth celebrations. They were celebrated in church a lot because churches were a safe space. So a part of the celebration was watermelon. And I got sent this text. How the watermelon stereotype came to be weaponized against Black Americans. We're old enough, so we know the old movies where they would have little black kids eating watermelon. Amos and Andy, watermelon. I didn't know why it became such a thing. Well, then I found out. When the blacks were freed, they had worked in the gardens and they had watermelon seeds, and they became entrepreneurs, and they grew watermelon and they sold them to people, they sold them to stores, and unfortunately the white people did not like that. So they started to categorize and be stereotypical about former enslaved people. Yeah, they just sit around eating watermelon all day. We've seen it in the old movies. Anybody not seen those Little Rascals, where they had one
Juicer.
black one, and he was always
Mhm.
eating what? Watermelon, yeah. So, they stopped. The younger generation stopped having watermelon because they thought it was awful. Because it was a symbol of what was done to their heritage. The fact that their forefathers became entrepreneurs and found a way to make money on their own. And which meant that the white growers were in competition. And so they stopped using watermelon because it was a sign of what had been done. But now they're taking it back. There's a shirt that says, "We're gonna eat our damn watermelon."
We're gonna eat it.
You know, I could have worn that today, but I don't have a right to. I am 2% African, just so you know. I said, am I black enough to talk about this? So I shared that with you. And so we have the official dessert of Juneteenth, which is red velvet cake, and take as big a piece as you want. We do have watermelon, we have strawberry soda, we have chocolate covered strawberries. Yeah, she's already got hers covered up, she's good to go. And do any of you have any questions about Juneteenth? Yeah.
When the colonel came, it was 2 years later though.
Yeah,
Yes, it
2
was.
whole years later.
You didn't.
I didn't make
Yeah.
that clear. Those people in Texas were were still enslaved for 2 years beyond Lincoln's proclamation. And I learned another thing too, that absolutely shocked the stuffing out of me. 5 Indian nations, the Cherokee, the Chickasaw, I can't remember, but they sided with the Confederacy. Yeah,
Well, they
they
also
did.
had slaves.
7,000.
Yeah, they had slaves.
They had 7,000 enslaved black people.
Well, that would
But-
make sense because
They
the
made it normal.
Yankees were off killing the Native Americans.
Yeah. So the United States had to do a new treaty with the 5 nations to free the 7,000 African descended slaves. And I never knew that American Indians had slaves, but they did. And so they had to sign a decree. It was the Cherokee decree. It was the Cherokees, but it was 5 nations. And the Indians, the Native Americans, the Native Americans gave the slaves the option of joining their tribe. 4 of them did. The Chickasaw did not. They were a very small nation, and they were concerned that if they allowed the freedmen to come in, they'd overrun everybody. You know, they'd overrun the government. But see, these were sovereign nations, these Indians, so they had to do separate treaties with these nations, which I thought was very interesting. Now, I told you today was National Independence Day, but it wasn't, because the Indians had 7,000, and then Delaware and Kentucky waited until the end of the year in December, until the 13th Amendment finally took place, which was freeing of the slaves. They held on to their slaves until December, so they had almost an entire
Another year. Yeah.
of which they had their slaves. So the African American community, this is an important day for them. And the reason people wear red, they have red velvet cake, they have strawberry, which is red, is because it's a sign of joy And it's also a sign of all the blood that was shed. So it has a two-edged sword meaning. And I found one reference where one old former slave, when he was asked about the red, he said, well, I don't know about everybody else, but I look at it as a symbol of all those blessed Yankees who died trying to get our freedom.
Right.
And it was good to run across that, you know? So anyway, I'm done. That's it. I just want to share with you it. Thank you. Would you take a picture of the crew? Because my children won't believe people came.
Thank you, everybody.
Get away. So please, let's eat.
We got you, we got you.
Thank you, Kathy. Let's hear for Kathy.
Mhm.
And sign in for Debbie.